Welcome to our first actual podcast / video stream here on Facebook. Today we have two people and a special guest joining us. Myself, Harrison Knoll. I am from ROCK Robotic, also Indiana Drones, and we do a lot of LiDAR work and drone work. And I have Daniel Wyndham here with me. Daniel.
What's up, everybody?
How are you doing?
I'm doing great. How are you?
So, guys, we wanted to make a live stream podcast here on this Facebook group. Basically, what we want to do is we saw a need. We make these YouTube videos. We make a lot of content. We really wanted to find a way. How do we engage with more people? How do we build a community? A couple of things that, we saw when we were building this page was that, really there's other communities out there. And it seemed like there was information, but not really the information I would really want personally as someone who was going to be running a business, trying to make money with drones.
You mean you want to make money?
I definitely want to make money, and I want to know how to make money is really what I want to know.
I thought it was just for fun. Oh man, you guys are getting paid?
I got paid every once in a while. So that's the title of this first video. It's all about making money using drone LiDAR. But this series, we're going to be doing live streams, ideally once a week. You never know. We'll probably do it every other week. We'll see how busy we get or how much anyone actually watches this. But what we want to do is bring on guests and talk about, how they actually quoted a job, how they did a job, and more of that side of the drone industry. Because that's a lot of the unknowns that we've seen, is like how to make money. So that being said, maybe I'll do a quick little intro about myself, and then I'll throw it over to you, Daniel. Yeah. And then we'll kind of jump into the whole the money side. That's pretty important. So if you guys haven't seen me before, Indiana Drones YouTube channel. It's been pretty awesome starting that a couple years ago. And then I'm also the CEO of ROCK Robotic. And so we make LiDAR equipment. But kind of in this journey, I've used a lot of different LiDAR systems and ran a services company for many years before getting into the, hey, let's build a widget, a hardware, and build software, the ROCK Cloud. And kind of in this journey, so I'm getting like pinged up and everything.
Well, that's a good sign.
Yeah, people are hitting me up already in the direct chats. So I'm run ROCK Robotic and then Indiana Drones, and now I'm here talking to you guys on Facebook Live. Daniel.
Well, that's awesome. I'm glad to be on here with you. So I was an environmental scientist, actually, for 9 years. I ran a GIS department at a civil and environmental engineering firm for 7 of those 9 years. And that is what got me into drones, because I was inspecting landfills and rock quarries and lots of other stuff that's gross and scary, and you can get hurt real bad. And so I thought, hey, why don't we just do this with a drone? And that was back like pre-DJI days. And, we're looking at all these things put together in garages, and I didn't really do that. So I waited till more like the Phantom time came out, and we started flying right when Part 107 came out, like the day after or something like that. And started doing mapping, back when these different photogrammetry sources were new. Nobody really knew how to do it other than like you and 2 or 3 other people. But we started doing all that kind of stuff. Then I got hired at a surveying firm to start a drone program there. And so built that up from photogrammetry to LiDAR using all kinds of different sensors. We've done airplane LiDAR, terrestrial, laser scanning, all that kind of stuff. And that brought me to working today with you and other awesome people trying to build out this industry.
So, dude, I was gonna say that's how I met you. So you actually you bought an R2A LiDAR system, and I think Matt trained you, and then right?
Oh no, it was just back then. It was just you
pre-training. This is before
you just emailed me a PDF, and I printed it out and kept it in my car.
I'm pretty sure I had lots of conversations with you one-on-one of just like, hey, how do I do this?
My kids were like, are you talking to Mr. Harrison? I'm on the East Coast and you're on the West Coast. So your 6 o'clock would be like 9, or I guess they go to bed like 7:30. So you'd still be working.
Yeah, that was fun.
Yeah. Well, it was good though, because now, we've learned from that and other people that we know, and we make that better. So that's one of the best things about this industry is, a lot of us kind of figured this out on our own. And then now the people getting into it, and as we scale, they don't really have to do that anymore. Totally.
And so that kind of brings me to the first, kickoff point of the conversation. So we kind of just talked about what we did and who we are, but really what is LiDAR? I think let's do a quick intro, a brief synopsis. It's not going to be that in depth, guys. So if you're here to learn what LiDAR is, go watch one of the YouTube videos, Indiana Drones, or Dylan Gorman's got some good videos. That's the guest who's going to be on here in a few minutes to talk to us. Yeah, spoiler alert. So what is LiDAR? So LiDAR, basically LiDAR mapping systems is what I'm going to talk about. So it's a little bit different than just LiDAR in general. Essentially, it's an active measurement device, and we're using them on drones. We're sending out laser pulses, oftentimes hundreds of thousands of laser pulses a second. And each one of those pulses is a direct measurement 3D point that you're getting. So you're building up points, one point at a time. And so there's other components, an IMU, a GNSS. Essentially, the name of the game is localize where the sensor is at in 3D space, the GPS, localize how it's oriented in 3D space and its pitch, yaw, and roll. Then once you know that really accurately and you know how you're pointed, then it shins out a laser pulse, and that makes a measurement, some distance away. It takes that distance, it takes that location, orientation, and now projects that point in 3D space into a geographic coordinate system. So different projections, local coordinate systems. At the end of the day, you're getting a bunch of dots that represent the real world. So that's essentially what LiDAR is. There's a bunch of other things about it. Again, check out the YouTube video. It'll explain more than we're going to do today, because today's not really about what is LiDAR, what's the technology. Really, what we want to talk about is the business side and making money and kind of building out more of a narrative around, more of a discussion, a narrative. And again, I'm going to tie that back into the group that you're in right now watching this video on Facebook, because this is really, we want you to ask those questions. We also want people to answer those questions. We want to share information.
Yeah.
We don't want to I don't want it to be too sales pitchy on there. So make sure we keep it clean. So sharing raw data sets, sharing actual quotes, actual, a bid that you did, an RFP that you did. And let's actually get that information out in the community, so that way we all can speak on the same language and really work together to build this out. Because actually a lot of money still to be made in this industry. Tons. It's just getting started. That's the beauty of it. Honestly, when I started, 7 years ago now, it was only a couple people doing this stuff, and it was so hard to convince people to do it. And really, I think now it's we're on this. There's the hype cycle. You go up, down, and then you start coming back up again. We're on
we're up and to the right for sure.
Yeah, the adoption. So
and it's also not like buying a house now.
Right.
It's hey, we can do this.
It's affordable. Yeah. Totally. Yeah. So Daniel, you tell me, man. So making money with drone light. So first of all, I think I want to understand. I think everyone here needs to understand something is why. What are people doing with this? Why does it even exist? And then who is the consumer of consuming the data? And then let's talk about what does a business really look like? What does it actually look like to run a business that does LiDAR? Who is the ones running these businesses? Should I be doing this? And then I think we should talk some numbers.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, the easy thing to think about LiDAR is just treat it like any other tool. It's just a way of collecting data. You can get this data other ways, right? It just is terrible. You can go do a topo of 200 acres in the woods with LiDAR in 20 minutes or maybe an hour. Or, you can go grab your machete and cut line and do a 50-foot grid. And
you said topo.
Yeah, topo. So topographic surveys. So I get a little excited about it. But, we capture LiDAR data for multiple reasons. So the LiDAR data gives you X, Y, and Z points of the real world. So you can measure things, whether it be, paint striping or a pole height or the sag of a power line over a road. You can capture data in a way that is a lot faster and more efficient than traditional methods.
But what are they capturing? So what's this topo? What's this?
Yeah. So
talk about this a little bit more.
Just like the background of this video, right? So when you're capturing the ground, you're getting points in a certain amount of area, whether that be 10 acres or 50 acres. And those points are able to be created, creates a triangular mesh. So basically every point, you connect it to every other point with triangles. And that helps you understand what the ground elevation is, even below the trees, below the bushes, all that kind of stuff, because establishing where the ground is now is how you're going to design something to exist later, or you're going to help stormwater drainage, which I spent a lot of time on, or anything like that. One thing I used to do all the time, we got airplanes to fly. Yeah, we got airplanes to fly over rock quarries and landfills because that would tell them how much space they either had left or how much rock they could still extract, and help them make business decisions instead of just guessing.
Well, I think let's dive down to that a little bit more, because you mentioned a few things. You said something about technical side, and that's cool. So technically, that's what's going on. But like the design level. So you're talking about an engineering firm or a civil engineering firm or land like what? Expand on like what exactly is someone doing in the real world? What were they doing, and why were they doing that? So they were going out there and collecting points to make so a surveyor would get contracted, or a civil engineering firm would get contracted, right? Talk about this a little bit.
Yeah. So I think an easy way to think about it is, in the last couple of years, there's been a lot of housing development, right? So more people are spending time in their houses. They want bigger houses, more, suburban sprawl kind of stuff, but also just really nice. And it could be the same thing for infill. But if you've got a site, let's say you want to build a nice neighborhood, right? It's right now it's a cow field or a forest or something like that. And you need to establish where all those house pads going to go. Where's all the water going to go? So somebody like a design engineer or a planner is going to do an initial plan of where they think they can place things, but they don't really know where you can put all the infrastructure. They don't really know where you can put all the houses or buildings or whatever it may be, because they don't know the exact lay of the land. So you would contract, whether it be a design engineer, a planner group, a developer, whoever it might be, even a construction firm that's doing a design build, they would contract with a land surveying firm. Now, the land surveyor is the one that's legally enabled to publish this data. They're not the only ones that can collect this data, right? So we have lots of drone service providers that might work with surveyors, because not every surveyor has drone LiDAR or any kind of LiDAR. They might be doing stuff still with the total station and the GPS, which is fine. They may be collecting stuff manually with a 2-man crew or a 3-man crew. So if you're working on the same site, if you were to do it with a traditional method, right? If it's a forest, you might get 3 acres a day with a 2-man crew. Maybe if you got the best crew in the world, maybe 5. So you're looking at, at least 20, 25 days worth of work to capture all the data you need for this design. And they're probably somewhere in like, if you want to mention numbers, like probably like $1,800 to $2,500 a day.
So 18 to 2,500 a day. Yeah. 3 to 5 acres a day.
Yeah.
Depending on if it's wooded. And so let's just say, let's rough some numbers out. Yeah, let's do some math. I think, so let's say 50 acres. 50 acres is a decent, 50 acres. It's a decent size of a, development. And what you're saying is that the drone LiDAR is going to be used to kind of augment some of the data. So you mentioned like total stations and other survey equipment. And I believe, like, from my understanding, I know this answer, so I'm still disingenuous to ask it. But so basically, like, if you're going to do boundaries, you're still going to go look for the boundary.
Oh, yeah. It's not going to replace that.
But then everything in between the boundaries. So the boundaries of a plat of land, right? So you're going to go build this model for a civil engineering firm who's going to design on top of this. They need a design level model here. So you still traditionally have the surveyor go out there and get those boundaries, but then everything in between those boundaries, you can go fly that drone over the top of it, and you're going to build all that topography and then be able to pull any features for like planimetrics from that LiDAR.
Right. So let's say you're doing that 50-acre site and there's an existing home site and driveway, and maybe there used to be a parking lot here or a swimming pool. You can extract all that from the drone data. And really what it does is it helps the people that know how to do their job, the crew chiefs in the field and, those new up and coming workers, they know what they need to do. We're taking out the stuff that's kind of monotonous, right? We're taking out that topographic grid. They're walking every 25 or 50 feet. Like, there's no reason for them to do that.
There's no reason. I mean, so first of all, like, no one wants to do that. I mean, some people are like, you're taking people's jobs, but nobody who wants to do that work.
I mean, I hired a guy last year. We hired a guy. I don't want to take total, but so a 19-year-old kid, his first day is in July in South Georgia. I mean, that just stinks. It's 105 degrees. You give him a machete and say, go. He wasn't even doing topo. I mean, he lasted like a week. Like it's hard work. And so anything that we can do to just increase the quality of life for these guys and increase their efficiency, I mean, it's a no-brainer, right? You should be flying every single job all the time, whether or not you need topo or not. You know, there's all kinds of stuff that you can do that makes your life easier with drone LiDAR data. It's not just the ground elevation. Like you said, the planimetrics, you can help prevent people from being in the road. You know, I just posted a video the other day about I did a DOT project in Florida. And the whole reason for doing it with the drone was because I felt like, you know, we could help with safety. Not even, forget timeline, like all that stuff is a bonus. But I was able to help my crews not be in the middle of literally the interstate. You know, they were building a new interstate exit and lane, you know, so in greenway and all kinds of stuff. By using the drone, we used traditional methods outside of the interstate right of way. You know, we're still checking pipes, we're still doing, you know, inspections and stuff like that. But for just getting the topographic design data, I was able to capture it in like 2 days, I think. I mean, it was a huge project.
That's huge. I mean, so I mean, honestly, if anyone who's watching has not been on the side of a highway or something trying to get some data, well, it sucks. Like I even getting it. I mean, I got a flat tire not too long ago, and I just being on the side of the highway, I'm a nervous wreck. Like I personally can't handle it. So that's interesting. So basically, what I'm hearing, so one of the aspects that we're hitting on strongly right now is this design level, you know, topographic surface as well as these planimetrics. And it's where, you know, the target audience, it's you know, engineering, civil engineering, land surveying companies. So it's augmenting a workflow that exists today. So this workflow is something that, you know, already happens, right? They're already building a topo. They're already getting, you know, either using a, you know, total station, which is, you know, a robotic total station, which is a way of capturing 3D points, or they're using a RTK system, another way of capturing 3D points and attributing those, like drawing out the features basically. So whether it's the elevation or it's like curbs or it's, you know, where locations things are. So all this needs to go into making this CAD model, this 3D model.
You're building a base map of what the world looks like in your software so you can then design it. And what we're trying to do is translate the real world into whatever design software you need.
Well, I think one thing that really clicked for me years ago is like, you know, hey, I'm going to build something, you know, a Walmart or something. Well, there's a bunch of shit that already exists out here, and all the stuff I build has to fit in perfectly with the stuff, you know, that already is there. And so like without this information of like, where's the existing sidewalks, you know, how high are those curbs, what style of curbs are those, you know, like all this information, how
they're not all the same.
They're not all the same, right? There's not some sort of one curb fits them all. So you need to get this information every time you build something. And so I think that's really the why and the who that we're servicing here. Let's start talking a little bit about some numbers. So absolutely. Like how much would it cost? Let's just say, let's go back to this 50-acre site. And let's say maybe there's some existing infrastructure there. So there's some planimetrics, some, you know, features to be extracted as well as the topo. And just, you know, I don't know. So roughly speaking, so 50 acres, we're talking about two man crew has got to go out there. And if it's wooded, you know, if there's any vegetation on the ground, there's trees or something, they can only do like 3, maybe 5 acres a day. You know, and honestly, like I personally just went out recently. We did I think it was a 30-acre job. And I was thinking about what if I had to walk all this, and like
it's not great, Harrison. I've nearly died several times.
I run a lot. Like I'm an avid runner. Like I just ran 8 miles the other day, but I couldn't have. It would have taken me a week to do this.
Yeah, no, it's not great. I mean, I used to do these and like have to go in the swamps and stuff like that to go through. I vividly remember like falling through a beaver dam near Athens, Georgia, and being like, "This is it." You know, and like, you don't have to do that anymore. Well, you know, like that wasn't a boundary survey. Like I was just looking for where's the extent of the floodplain. I could have scanned the dang thing and established that.
Let's do some numbers. So we're talking about, let's just on the high end, say 5 acres a day. We got 2 people. I'm not even going to include the party chief that's back in the office or anyone in the office.
The drafting side.
Let's do that separately.
At least 2 weeks. Yeah.
So that's 2. Okay. So it's 50 acres. We'll divide that by 5. So we're going to like 10 days, you know, if we're crushing it. So it's 10 days, 2 people. So times it by 2. So we have 20 people days. And then, you know, let's say there's 8 hours in a day. It's 160 hours. And then let's take that, times that by how much do you think someone makes out in the field?
How much they're billing or how much you're paying them?
Let's say how much we're paying them. Let's do in office. $20. 25?
20 is a good average. Yeah, 20 is a good average.
Let's say 20. So right there, it's $3,200 just in like your cost to hire 2 people. And that's not even the billing rate. So it's probably billing rate, maybe like
billing rate's usually 3x. Yeah.
3x. Okay.
Yeah.
So I'm going to times that by 3. So really you're billing like $10,000 right there.
Yeah.
Just
and it
for
could
the
definitely be more. Yeah.
Oh, for sure. For sure.
Yeah.
Well, because this doesn't equip, there's no equipment here. We haven't talked about vehicle equipment.
Right.
And so,
and you get some people who have 20 years of experience. Obviously, they're making way more than 20. But, you know,
totally.
Obviously, the new guy off the street's not. So that's a good average.
Well, then all that data has to come into the office, and then
you pay a CAD drafter,
and that person's going to be
30 an hour.
30 an hour. So we got 9,600 plus 30 an hour, and it's probably going to take them
a day or 2.
Yeah. So I'm going to add 30 times. Let's just say it takes them 20 hours. I screwed up my math, guys, and I lost the number. It was above 10,000.
Yeah, it's a lot. Yeah, I mean, just to kind of do a shortcut, the last job I think I quoted before I switched jobs was 45 acres, 41 acres, and it was $18,500 for a surveyor cost
to go out and do it. Yeah,
to go out and do it. Yeah,
right. No, so I think well, this is a big differentiator. I think people get confused, and there's some other people in the drone market that really price things really down. But when you start looking at like the value, so let's just that last job I did was I think 30 acres, and I don't know if Alex is watching us. He can tell me how many acres it was. But I think sorry, it was 300 acres. Sorry.
Oh yeah, I was gonna say that was big.
Yeah, it was big. It was 300 acres. Well, it literally took me 2 hours to fly it. I flew it in 2 hours.
Yeah.
2 hours, 300 acres, and it was on the foothills. And I think we charged $24,000 just to get the topo.
Yeah.
So what did it actually look like a day in the life? So there's some numbers for you guys. You guys got some numbers, kind of understanding. 300 acres, $24,000. Even like 50 acres. We're talking about in the tens of thousands of dollars. Like
and a lot of people ask me like what to charge per acre, and I always say it depends. I mean, it just does depends. I mean, like we've got, and we can talk to Dylan about this later, our surprise guest who's going to be.
Dylan will be on just a second because he's got, we're going to hear an actual real life use story other than ours, from Dylan. Yeah. And so I think that's a good idea. Now, so a day in the life of a drone service provider, like honestly, what it really looks like, and like how do you actually go about getting these numbers? Where do you start? I think that's the big question. Like I think people hear, oh, those numbers sound great. I want those numbers. I would love to have 24, because I released a video. I made $45,000 in one day. Yeah. Oh, numbers sound great.
You get lots of comments on that one.
I think what it really, lots of comments.
Yeah.
Hustle. So there's a few things we're talking about here.
You got to be out there doing it.
You got to get out there and do it. You got to really start understanding a few of the nomenclatures of what we're talking about here. Obviously, there's a lot of videos on YouTube. So my videos and Dylan's video starts teaching you this information. And Dylan, who's going to be on here in just a second, has Pilot Bites, and he's going to be releasing some courses to kind of help people learn and educate. So there's a great plug for the Pilot Bites. And so I think it's education, but then a lot of it's like getting out there and just hustling a little bit. So there's a lot of demo data sets. So we have the ROCK Cloud, and we provide a bunch of data sets to people. And you can get those contours, deliverables. So today, even before you own anything, if you're already, so I think Daniel can talk on the behalf of if you're a business that already has business, if you're already a civil engineering surveying firm. I'll let Daniel talk about that. I'm going to talk about it from the perspective of I'm not that. And so what I would do, what I have done, and what was successful is I got out there and I took data sets and I cold called people. I made meetings and I showed them, said, hey, I can go out and get this topographic survey data for you. And I can do it, at this price and this rate. And I can do 300, 400. I mean, I did that $45,000 job was 1,200 acres. We did that in one day.
Yeah, it's huge.
One day. It was huge. A drone. And so like, that's the scale of what you can go out and do in one day. And you can go and tell that story, show those deliverables, and really, win that business. And I think really having this is one of the reasons, again, I'm not trying to plug anything here, but this is one of the reasons we built this ROCK Cloud software is because before this, it was really difficult to share your results, to open it on a laptop, to send a link to someone.
I built a whole open source website. I'd say I built it. I hired somebody just to send people drone orthos.
Oh yeah.
Not even LiDAR. That was before, anything like, ArcGIS Online or QGIS or anything like that. It was such a problem. We paid tens of thousands of dollars to hire somebody to make a mobile website when the iPad first came out.
Yeah, I mean, totally. I mean, that's literally, but now that you can share it, use the tool. Use a tool, hustle out there, go talk to people. And so that's what I would do as a drone service provider, someone who's getting into this, trying to make some money. And I would schedule those meetings, and I would hear from them what their pain points are. But I would come in knowing full well the pain point really is hiring a bunch of people to go out there and walk in the woods all day long is hard. Yeah. Anyone who does this work, that's awesome. But every single surveying firm, civil engineering firm that does this work today, they're all struggling because they can't hire enough people to go out and do the jobs and get into the woods, get a snake bite, come into the work at 10 a.m. drunk and hungover from the day before.
10 a.m. We get there at 6, man.
No, I know. That's what I'm saying.
I'll get there at 10. That's when the engineers get there, Harrison.
But that's what I'm saying. That's the quality of people that you'll end up getting, because that's who wants to do this work.
I know.
So that's really the pain point that you're coming into their office to talk about. You're talking about that pain that they feel. They're feeling this. Hey, I have missed money. There's jobs that are coming into my door, and I have to say, "Oh, I'm 6 weeks out. Oh, I'm 8 weeks out."
You start turning people down.
So if you can speed up 60% of the work, 80%, and that's the name of the game. We're just trying to get that efficiency, and that's where you unlock those numbers, because we're unlocking the number of 2 weeks of labor as well as hiring, but you're able to do it in one day as a DSP. You don't have to tell them that. You don't have to. I don't recommend it. Don't tell them that. Just say, hey, I'm just going to do it. I'll do it same price. I'll do it faster. Or you can do it the same distance and a little bit cheaper. But you don't have to be both, guys. You really don't. No, not necessary. It's about relationships. So I think that's the DSP side. So Daniel, do you want to talk a little bit about on the if you already are a firm that has this work?
Yeah, absolutely.
That's what you were.
Yeah. So, we've got, by the way, anybody who's got a question, we're going to have like a question and answer section here at the end. So, just hang out and we'll go through, as many questions as we can. So don't feel like we're not answering. But so as I got hired by a survey firm to start a drone program. They're like, we need this, but we don't know what to do. And there's a lot of people that sympathize with that feeling. Right? They know that they need this data. They know how to do it. And maybe they're hiring somebody, maybe they're not, maybe they're just confused. And people are really busy. When you've got a 6-week backlog of just starting a job, like your everyday life is just a fire drill. And, I've lived that. I know what that's like, to the point where like, I had to go to the doctor. I was working so much. Like they were just like, "Hey, you gotta chill." And I'm like, "But my backlog. Like, have you seen my P&Ls? Like, what's going on? Like, that's just how it is. Like, I'm not sitting here thinking like about other things. I've probably got somebody on the phone right now, and I've got something to do today. I like to think about that kind of thing. That's really my job. But most people in that industry don't need to do that. So when you're talking about like the benefits, I can just kind of go through how it was for me. So, I sat down and identified just raw topo land, right? So just land development, topos, contour maps, that kind of stuff. We had more work to do in the coming year. I know a lot of people did their budgets and their, P&Ls for next year, their future analysis and all that kind of stuff. We had more work to do than we could possibly do with the amount of people we had. And so we had to do something. And so just with, the LiDAR unit, I was using the R2A from ROCK Robotic. I looked at that and we were able in 10 months, because what we bought in like February or something, right? Yeah. As one of the first R2As right after the R1A. Right. It was when we started talking about R1A. Yeah. But it was 4.5 FTs, full-time equivalents. So 4.5 people's worth of work. I couldn't hire, 4.5, 5 people that knew what they were doing that could do this amount of work. And I was really hesitant, honestly, when I first started, because I was like, okay, how am I going to process all this stuff? Obviously I use, ROCK, I'm not, plugging or anything, but like just in my personal life, like I went from manually processing all this stuff for years to using cloud service like ROCK Cloud. And, I went from budgets that were like, okay, this topo's $18,500 or it's $18,000 or $21,000. And we would basically, you budget for you to make a little bit of money, but it's not a lot. You'd get close to that budget number. But when I started using drone LiDAR, even more than drone photogrammetry, which I'd been using for years and we were using all the time, just the drone LiDAR was able to take us from going from that to like, we're not running late and we're making a better margin. I wasn't worried about hitting my budget number. I wasn't worried about hitting my,
I know
I'm going to be late.
Numbers, Daniel, it really makes me second guess our pricing model on the ROCK Cloud. Honestly,
I told you it was a steal.
You did, yeah. You really changed these numbers.
Are you kidding me? Absolutely. And and like let's just talk about it in general. Like I used to send stuff to India before that existed,
right?
And it is dirt cheap. And you know what? Sometimes it's really good. Sometimes it's really not. And when it's usually really not? When your deadline's close. And then you got to go do it. And you got to stay up all night. And I've been there and it's horrible.
Yeah.
And that trust relationship just isn't really there normally. So there's other ways to do this. It's just not great. But from my perspective, if you're a surveying or engineering firm that's collecting this data all the time, there is no reason in the world that this shouldn't just be, whatever you've got, a drone LiDAR should just be another thing you've got in the truck. In every truck.
Hey, Daniel and Harrison, this is Curtis, your producer behind the scenes. I'm going to throw a question for Daniel up on the screen. This is from Steven. He says, did you ever use any outside service providers for your survey firm? And if so, how much would you pay?
Yeah, people like Harrison. I can remember before I did it myself, I would hire a certain person, and he had a very expensive drone setup. That was back when everything cost $300,000 to even get started. And I remember our last project we did together, it was 100 acres. I paid him $10,000. And he flew from halfway across America to Atlanta, drove to the site, and he flew, and I was there the whole time. This is what blew my mind about LiDAR when I'd been hiring him, but I didn't know what it took. But one day I had to go out there and meet him. He was there for like 20 minutes and then he flew home. And I was like, I can't even believe that happened.
All right. That's a good question. Because I think someone should, I know RJ knows this answer, but how many survey firms in the United States alone? I think it's thousands.
17,000? 7,000? It's got a 7 in it.
I think it was in the 5-ish range. Yeah. So it's just like even, once, because I think from the DSP side, the drone service provider, DSP.
Absolutely.
That's a good question of like, oh, are they all going to take it in house and am I out of a job?
No, they're not. There's and one of my best buddies is like, I don't care if it's free. I'm not learning it. I know what I do. I'll hire somebody.
They don't want to. And also, can you teach everyone how to fly a drone? Like, it doesn't matter. I don't care how easy it is.
Nope.
It's still, you're like launching this thing into the air. I think it takes some sort of, that's usually if you look into these firms, these survey firms, like we have a bunch of customers, right? And so we're selling this equipment and Daniel does a bunch of training for them. Typically it's going to be the younger guy in the group. That's like the drone dude. And so like, I don't think, I think it would be crazy to think that all of these survey firms have that young dude that is hip and really into this stuff. So
I just talked to a guy. I talked to a guy today who works at a law firm and is wanting to change careers. I'm doing training with him with R360, and he had one meeting at a survey firm, and they said, "We want to do this. We just don't have time. We don't know what to do." He's already got 5 jobs.
Yeah, no, it's crazy. So let's
one meeting.
We can't give away all the spoilers in this first one, guys.
No, it's all good stuff all the time.
Some things for the future.
It's all good all the time.
Well, in the future on this podcast, so I'm going to go ahead and wrap up this first section because what we want to do is a couple things that struck me, and we want to hear from you guys and what you want to hear from us. We're going to bring some more people on. So one thing I know is an issue is like actually writing that bid. And then what are the contracts that you need to have in place with someone to do the service? It's like, how do you look professional, and how do you also cover your ass? So I think we want to cover that on another video. I think really getting down into just getting more people onto the show and talking about specifics of like, how much did you bid that job
right there? Yeah.
How'd you get that? So I think make sure you guys it's just this group, just the Facebook group that we're in right now. That's how we're going to communicate all these this information. Obviously, we're going to blast it through all of our LinkedIn's. Daniel and I are constantly just talking everywhere.
Yeah.
But that's that's my
hobby.
honestly, we literally talk about this stuff when we're not working. Like I'll call up Daniel and it'll be like in the middle of the night. We're still
I do it for fun. Yeah.
This is fun.
Yeah,
it's fun. Okay, so with that being said, let's go ahead and go to our special guest for the show today. So we have Dylan Gorman on with us today. So Dylan, for all of those who do not know him, he has a YouTube channel, coincidentally also called Dylan Gorman. So you guys should check out his YouTube channel. And then Dylan also has a new project that he is launching this year. 2 new projects. One is in-person meetups and trainings where you can actually meet with him. He's an expert at photogrammetry and also an expert at doing drone LiDAR. And then Dylan also has a more scalable, for the people that cannot make it to him in person, Pilot Bites. And so Pilot Bites is his new online school. And I really 2 thumbs up to Dylan for doing that. It was an idea. I always wanted to do it, but I just don't have time. And Dylan really is a good teacher.
It takes a lot of time, but it's fun.
And you're a good teacher, man.
I appreciate it. No, thank you.
Welcome to the show that has no name.
Yeah. No, all of this has been really exciting. And honestly, Harrison, we go back like a year, and I have even been following your stuff way before then. So, to get the opportunity to work alongside with you guys to help educate, because I think that is probably the most important part about everything that we do here is it's not just going out and getting the work. It's also that education piece, because half of the people in the industry just think that it's a commodity. You can just throw it up in the air, take a few photos, and 2 thumbs up, you're good. And it's not. There's a whole lot more to it.
I wish it was.
Oh my God, yeah. I mean, if it was, then we wouldn't be here. So
we'd be offline right now.
It is
exactly
5% of the time. 5% of the time, it's exactly that. The other 95% of the time, when something doesn't go right, it's not that.
Yeah, right. That's when you're up in the hotel room at 3 a.m. like processing.
Exactly.
So Dylan, you tell us a little bit about your background and what kind of work you do. I know YouTube's not your full-time job. You actually have a job, and this pays the bills.
Yep.
And so tell us a little bit about that. And what do you do?
Absolutely. Yeah. So my background, I've actually been a commercial drone pilot coming up on 10 years now. Started out just doing regular real estate photography, had the old Phantom 2 with a modified GoPro on there. And then I have a little bit of a production background. But about 5 years ago, I started my own basically drone service provider network, and had a small network of pilots that operated underneath me. And about 2 years ago, I actually sold it to a software company that I'm at now. So, and
I didn't know that.
Yeah,
I didn't know you sold it to.
I did.
Yeah.
Yep. So the company I'm at now, they create software for the commercial real estate industry. Basically, a great asset management tool, which drones also just happen to plug perfectly into it. So think of like your shopping centers, your Amazon warehouses. We inspect inside and outside, create digital twins now, which is pretty cool. But all of that, really my background for the last 5 years has just been mainly in photogrammetry. It was 2 years ago that I got introduced into LiDAR, which is just the next step up, the next evolution into this whole world with I like to call it aerial intelligence with drones.
Nice.
And so that's kind of my background. But over the last, I'd say 6 months, I've started building out my Pilot Bite education platform. So stems from my YouTube channel of just showing people what you can do with drones, right? It's more than just a cool tool that you can throw up in the air and take photos and videos, right? We're all commercial pilots here. At least that's what we like to get into. And obviously I know this is the main focus here is aerial mapping, but drones have so many different use cases in so many different industries, which is, I think is cool. But a lot of people don't understand how to use it or what they can be used for.
So tell us quickly, like just really quick. So obviously you did a ton of photogrammetry. Well, I think it's just really cool hearing the story of going from real estate, videography, just going from those videos, just doing the the pull in, the push ins, and the pull outs, the dolly shots, all these like real estate photos, to kind of then going into like actually accurate like industrial applications for this data. And so you were doing photogrammetry a lot. Now you're doing LiDAR. So why would one, why not the other, real quick? And then, so why would one do one over the other?
Yeah, well,
it's a big question.
No. I'll simplify it. I mean, To be honest, we still do a lot of photogrammetry. We're still averaging about 3,000 to 4,000 flights a year for our clients. And that's average. Some years we're doing more, some years we're doing a little bit less, but on average, we're doing about that many flights. LiDAR is really new to the mix. And it really more so stems off of the stuff that, you know, Daniel and every other similar person does of just generating topos, which I got a pretty cool story to tell you about this simulation that we built off of one. But the world of LiDAR is really changing more so on the commercial real estate, or just really real estate in general. This whole concept of scan to BIM is blowing up like crazy. Before, I mean, you can still pay, you know, hundreds of thousands of dollars for LiDAR sensors or SLAM-based sensors. But to interpret that data took a lot of horsepower and manpower too. And so I think now with how feasible it is to acquire this equipment and even leverage both the platforms together, I think it's huge and is going to change my industry tenfold.
Well, I couldn't imagine.
And we're already starting to see it. I mean, this whole metaverse thing, you know, despite the whole thing that's going on with Facebook, it's still a really relevant topic. We're not on the video game side of it, but you know, we're using it for real purposes. Not, hey, look at this cool avatar that I built, and you know, let me go spend $10 million on this fake land.
Yeah, right. Well, I think the real purpose is like, you know, people like, you know, I don't know, for instance, some big box stores, you know, Walmart's or these kind of companies. You know, they oftentimes they don't really have eyes on the ground everywhere. No. Right. So like you have a local store manager, but that local store manager, is he really the guy that needs to know everything about the HVAC system? Or, you know, no, it's some engineer in an engineering firm that's designing these, you know, stores at scale. And so Dylan, what you're talking about in the BIM side is like in the, you know, capturing commercial real estates and, you know, providing that 3D, you know, CAD model so people can understand all this equipment.
I mean, to capture, you know, a 100-acre site and, you know, a fully developed site, we're not talking bare land. And to be able to run it through an AI or ML model to generate planometrics, to generate our topo models and have a full one-to-one scale of the entire property. It's crazy. And I still can't wrap my head around it. I think it's some pixie dust that's going on in the background. But for our clients, for how fast things are moving, in my industry at least, it's becoming a real need.
Well, Dylan, you can really thank, you know, Alex, my brother. You know, this guy is the CTO and the head of all our software. And you know, I bow down to him every day because he's him and his team. I mean, they're insane.
They're wizards, man.
They are wizards. You know,
I will say in all my experience, there's very few companies out there, and you know, not trying to be biased here, but there's very few companies out there that have figured out how to make it efficient and easy to understand, but also easy to implement into their day-to-day workflows. I have spent my time, you know, reading through documentation on how to get stuff figured out and just throw my hands up in the air. I'm like, I need this done in the next 6 hours, not in the next 6 days.
Yeah. Right. Totally. Well, thank you very much for the compliment. Let's talk a little bit more about so the topic of the video today, what we're talking about is making money with, you know, drone LiDAR and really get into that. So I heard you say a second ago, you had a really cool story to share with us. So I'd like to hear, can you share more about this story or like
absolutely.
Story? It's a real life example.
No, it was actually a pretty cool project. It was a friend of my dad. They're developers. They're actually like one of the bigger developers in Tampa, Florida, which is where I'm based out of. Sweet. And they were developing new last mile distribution centers. They're going to be building 3 of them. But the issue is, you know, being in Florida, you're close to the water, and there's a lot of protected vegetation or just waterways that are protected. And the area that was getting developed, it's been halted for the last 2 years because nobody wanted to go out there. Nobody wanted to do the study. Army Corps of Engineers were just halting essentially this entire development. So it was really just one entity that was holding up the entire project. So my dad's buddy, he knew that I did some stuff with drones. And so, you know, this is where that education piece came into play. He's like, well, what if you just flew the drone over and took some photos? I'm like, well, we could do that, but we're not gonna be able to generate a topo. And he's like, well, what can we do with the topo? I said, well, actually a lot of cool things, right? We'll have a one-to-one scale model of it, right? We can penetrate through the vegetation, at least through the areas that the LiDAR can see the ground, and generate a very accurate topo, within a 1/10 of an inch, or even within 100th of an inch, depending on, how accurate, or, whatever way you process it. And from there, I explained, we can take that model and run it through a simulation model of the high tides, because the area that was in question, there was 2 high impact areas, or really just 2 impact areas that there was a protected species, but there was also an invasive species, and of it's like banana pepper or something like that. But we also, mangroves in Florida are heavily protected. I mean, those are like a big no-no. And, to get surveyors out there again to try and, understand what's going on. Right. They tried multiple times. They were literally using phones to take photos of where, these mangroves and the banana peppers were. And I said, you guys, there's this whole lot easier way to do this. I could go out there in one day, really, and generate a full topo and send over the model to you in the same day, which actually happened. I went out there first thing in the morning. I went there at low tide because they wanted to see the absolute lowest point. Captured the model, took me 35 minutes. It was only 15 acres. Went back home and I had a full topo basically generated by 3 p.m. the same day, which is absolutely crazy. Had the model sent over to them. And by the end of the week, they were able to make a decision on if they were able to move forward with the project or not. And so, within, we'll call it 7 hours of capturing and delivering the data, we were able to actually generate something that was usable and vital to the entire project, right? We go from 2 years of being held up to 7 hours of getting an answer, which is crazy.
You're telling me we were 7 hours away from this the entire time?
Yeah. I showed my client was like, man, I wish we had you from the start. So
think of how many times that happens all across the world.
Well, and that's a relationship now that you have, because like, saving someone that energy, like they're gonna call you next time. And I think that's that's the relationship building aspect of, because I think other than the story being awesome, what you're doing, like you said at the beginning, kind of like, these relationships and, this, like and the education
too, just explaining, hey, this is just another tool set, right? I'm not coming out to replace a surveyor, right? I'm not a PLS myself, so I can't qualify the accuracy of the data, but I can go and generate the data, right? Whether a surveyor captures the data or I capture the data, it's still going to be both the same data set. It's just one has to check it off, right? So I was able to work directly with the surveyors to prove the theory right. And I guess when it comes down to the numbers of it, right, that was a $2,500 job, super easy. I charged, I think, $90 an acre plus, a few extra $100 here and there for me going out to the site, the equipment use, and some data processing.
Yeah, that's very, very affordable. That's a very affordable.
So I think we came out, net positive about $1,800, which is great.
Yeah, that's a very affordable rate. I think it's the difference between, because like in this scenario, this was a speculative, like, can we do this? I think if they had the thumbs up and they're like, we are doing this, and then you sold the same data to them, then the value of that data goes up. It's just when in the value chain did that data get used? And I think like, because this is like an analogy I always give. Like I'm always pushing the Jenga pieces. I don't know if you guys play this game Jenga where they stack the blocks and you poke them out. I'm always trying to poke and see when one's going to slide easily. And that pricing number, some people ask you very definitive numbers, like give me a price. And it's like, I always say like, first thing, who are you selling it to and what do they need it for? And so it sounds like in that scenario, they were already 2 years into this thing. This was like oh wow, we want to try this. And so the rate that you charged garnered that number, because it was something that, like, if it said no, they'd be like, if you charge them 30 grand and it came out with a no, they'd be like, well, damn it. Right. But if they had a yes, like now you're in the next phase, it's a yes, we are building. We need that design level topo, like Daniel was talking about earlier in the episode. Now all of a sudden that same data is worth,
maybe
$18,000, right? Right. And it was your family friend, so they had a great deal.
They definitely did. And honestly, this from building that relationship, they already have several other developments that they're already considering to use us on.
Awesome.
And another great example that I had was a dispute over dirt.
Oh yeah.
So earthworks is huge. And we were able to save one of our clients over $60,000 because the contractor lied about the volume of dirt that was on site. Turns out that they were actually flipping the dirt on the back end, right? Whatever they dug up, they were selling to somebody else.
Oh,
and they're like, hey, we need more. So we went out and flew, a few passes of it. And again, generated the data in the same day. And we didn't even have to process it. We just threw it into the cloud and used, the volumetric tool that you have. Within a few hours of capturing the data, we were able to do that, which is crazy. It's absolutely crazy.
That's another
how easy it is too.
In a few hours.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Think of the lawyer's fees you just saved them too. Forget the dirt costs. Let's imagine it goes to a legal situation. That's $100,000.
Yeah.
Right.
Or more.
Right. Yeah. I feel like they probably just took that data set because you probably link shared it to them. So they had the data set. They probably then just brought that contract and said, check this out. Here's something interesting. Here's something interesting we just saw. And they they had the 3D data right there. They drew the volume around it and then it said, oh, that number is very interesting. What do you think?
Yeah.
Right.
I did the same thing. I did a job every single week. We flew it either photogrammetry or LiDAR, depending on what stage it was in. And the contractor had said, yeah, we've been working on it. We got all these guys out there. And then I had a stack of like 6 weeks in a row where the dirt work hadn't changed in the LiDAR and you had pictures from the ortho on the same unit. And those trucks weren't there every single time. Uh-oh,
indeed.
Yeah.
I think it's another tool, and like these two examples are really awesome, Dylan, because it just shows you like, these are, both examples of how you can go out and have those conversations. So you're having a conversation, you're learning this pain point, you're learning this need, and by understanding the technology and like what it can do. And I think that's like what your Pilot Bytes is trying to provide to people, as well as our YouTube channels. And Daniel's Daniel's like blowing up on TikTok somehow, and it's one of the most amazing.
Really good at dancing, believe it or not.
It's all drone LiDAR stuff on TikTok.
Exactly, all drones all the time.
But I think just by subscribing to these channels and and watching and learning and because 3 years ago this information was not out there at all.
No,
it was just like very like people would keep it close to the chest. And so plug for the Facebook group that you're in right now. Join the Facebook group because we're going to be talking about these kind of information every, ideally week, but we'll see when it really happens. So with that being said, we're coming close to 52 minutes past the hour. Why don't we go ahead and take it over? You guys want to do some Q&A? What do you guys think?
Let's do it. We probably have a lot.
All right, fellas, this is Curtis. I'm going to throw a question up and you guys can discuss, and then I'll throw a couple more as you finish. Does that sound good?
Yeah,
sure. Question: what are some of the first steps to getting a legitimate job or building client relationship?
Knowing what you're talking about.
Yeah, I agree with that one.
Yeah.
That doesn't hurt. Does it?
I would say researching your client, really, understanding the industries that you're getting into, because LiDAR can be used in several different ways, several different industries, right? One workflow may not work for another person, or one data set may not work for another person. So, even understanding who, even within the same industry. So I think that's what's great about LiDAR data is it's so versatile.
Would you say Would you say it's important to like niche down, like figure out, just focus on one thing first?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I learned very early on that I can't do everything with a drone. And, figuring out how to do 1, 2, or 3 good things really, really well and perfecting your craft with that. Start there, plus also understand what your clients' wants and needs are, and then find the solutions for them.
I like that a lot because that really resonates with me. Like, I think it's just like, just in life in general, like, the power of saying no. Like, I think if you're really, oftentimes you're like an entrepreneur, you're always saying yes. You're always learning about something new. You want to pursue, you want to do new things. When someone comes to you with a cool idea, you get excited, you're hyped. And this is the woes of an entrepreneur, right? This just happens. But then when you start learning the power of saying no, so basically what I'm saying when I say it's not about saying, I'm going to niche down on this one thing and figure it out. But it's also like when you say no to something random, like, I don't know, I'm just going to throw out some things that so methane leaks, cool. Yeah. Some people do them.
Yeah.
Whoever's watching this video, don't pursue this.
I tried to do it years ago, and I immediately was like, nope, never doing that again.
Yeah. So looking at that, maybe like even some like, honestly, forestry is really hard. It's just a very difficult one. It's very cool, but very hard. So I'd say no to that one. Even a lot of like the agriculture stuff is really difficult. And again, anyone who's watching is into this stuff, more power to you. But for the people that are new and getting into it, to stay focused. So the money and the easy money is one thing that my brother and Alex and I say all the time is like, if there's a line item for this service today, and we can do that exact same thing for cheaper, faster internally, whatever it is, that's what you should go after. So in the case of Daniel and Dylan are talking about these topos, right? That's a line item. That's existing work that's done today. And so if you can go and do that exact same thing with the drone, cool. Because then the people you're going to talk to, they're not changing their workflow. They're not changing anything. Really, they pull out one piece and put another piece, and you just do it faster. So I think that's a big thing. Don't get distracted.
Absolutely.
All right, guys, did I soapbox there long enough? Okay, question 2. Sorry. Question 2, when pricing services, is it normal to do a set deployment fee plus acreage or just basic price for entire project?
I always do price for the entire project because you can't necessarily count on the price per acre being the same. I mean, 15 acres and 1,500 acres and 15,000 acres, the price per acre is not the same. Otherwise, you'd be billing $1 billion, which great if you can, but it's not going to happen.
Excellent.
So, yeah, I mean, you can have. So I basically have, when I'm quoting jobs, I have a spreadsheet where I price out the actual cost that I'm doing, and everybody can make their own thing. But I get very detailed in it. I mean, like if I'm flying somewhere, I put the cost of the Wi-Fi on the plane. Like I'm going to per diem myself, even if I don't have per diem. But like I want to know like what my real profit margin is on this, because I want to know if it's worth it or not. Like Harrison said, you can say no. And I've said no to people on large dollar jobs because they really weren't large profit jobs. And that wasn't necessarily because I couldn't do it. It's just that like, why would I? Like that doesn't necessarily fit what I'm trying to do. But yeah, I think for sure, don't go out there and say, definitely don't go say per hour or per day. My goodness, no.
Yeah, I wouldn't do that either. Cause I think so, for instance, like this job that I just did, it was like in the foothills of the Rockies, they're north of Denver. And like the equivalent, so I think it's about, what is the equivalent today? So again, there's a line item today for this service. Yep, exactly. What is the equivalent for that today? And this was like, it was, well, so maybe not the Colorado. There was one I did in Northern California. It was this gold mine. It was really sweet. But literally the guy could not hire a surveyor. No surveyor would even say yes to this job because the terrain was just too treacherous. Yeah. But that 1,200 acres, if it was down on flat land with no trees or anything else, is a way different price, you know, than 1,200 acres that physically no one could even get out there. Like you would die if you tried. You would have to like mountaineer to get a few topo points. It was impossible. So,
and I mean, on all these jobs, you got to consider accuracy. You know, like what kind of accuracy they need. I price jobs really 3 different ways, but the 2 main ones are like mapping level accuracy, so non-survey stamped data, and then survey grade. So both of them you want to be within ASPRS anyway, but like if you need it survey grade, you're going to pay more. You know, and you're also going to have to involve a surveyor if you're a DSP, or if you are a surveyor, it's going to be your normal workflow. But you know, I might do like I did 3,000 acres earlier this year, and I priced that less than some of the jobs I've done for like 500 acres. Because it was, I could fly it at 400 feet. Like my accuracy only had to be within half a foot, which normally it's like an inch. And it was still like maybe 2 inches or something like that, RMSE. So I did better than I was even supposed to, but it enabled me to do 3,000 acres in 3 days.
What do you think, Dylan?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I price it per project and really depends on what the client is looking for, because there is no set, hey, it's $90 an acre and that's what it's going to be for everything I do.
This isn't a Big Mac.
No. There's so many different factors to it. You know, how difficult is it to capture the data? What end result are they looking for? Do they just want a pretty point cloud, or are they looking for topos? Are they looking for the planimetrics? Are they looking for the whole, you know, the whole piece of the pie?
Right.
Are they having you do stuff outside of the LiDAR capture too? Do they want orthomosaics? Do they want a full 3D model? So, I think there's multiple different factors that go into the price.
Right.
And there's no one size fits all.
Right. Am I working for Jacobs Engineering, one of the largest engineering firms in the world, or is it Mom and Pa that's my client? I think who the client is too kind of determines how much they're going to pay.
And the timeline. Do they want it in 3 months or do they want it in 3 days?
Timeline.
You want me out there on Saturday? You're going to pay me that.
Right.
If you want 3 months from now, you get a deal. Or if you want me to repeat, especially with construction, if you want me to come out every week for a year and a half or every month for a year, yes, every individual one will be cheaper because
value your time. Your time. That's a huge keynote. All right. Question 3. How can I better market and get more paying clients for photogrammetry? I recently started a drone business and I don't have the capital for LiDAR yet. Dylan, do you want to jump in on this one? I think start making YouTube videos. That's a great way,
No, honestly, I think it goes back to what I was saying before is understanding who your client is and what they're looking for. Because photogrammetry can be used in so many different ways.
True.
Even dating back before leveraging LiDAR data, right? You can still use that to generate contour maps.
Sure can.
If you wanted to. Or for architects, right? They're using it to have high resolution images of the facades and full 3D renderings of their buildings. And so it comes down to who is your client or what industry do you want to get into to serve photogrammetry or have photogrammetry services. And then once you find who your ideal client is, start networking and asking questions, right? There's no dumb question. There's no stupid questions when talking to people, because ultimately, if someone's really excited about something, they're going to tell you everything about it. And you can learn their entire workflow, and then you can find the holes in it where a photogrammetry service could fit, and then work with them on that. But it also is all important to understand how your stuff works too, right? You can't just say, "Hey, I can make photogrammetry models all day long."
Yeah, I think
understanding the capabilities is number one, and then number two is understanding who your client is, and then seeing how your capabilities can fit within what they're looking for.
Yeah, I'd say because definitely just going out and just flying and making a photogrammetry model is different than getting ground control points or or tying it into a local projection, a state plane, or getting actual accurate measurable maps versus getting a just photorealistic map, right?
Right. Big difference between the two.
Big difference. So educate yourself on that before you go out. Person who asked that question, and then make sure you understand those differences. Pilot Bytes will have a photogrammetry course soon. I'm just plugging. I'm plugging it again.
I've actually got a video coming out about ground control points with photogrammetry, so that's hopefully coming later this week. So that actually goes right in hand with that.
Awesome. Perfect. All right, next question. How can I use my LiDAR photogrammetry models in the metaverse, and where can I sell them? Okay, well, I'm going to step back and let Dylan talk about this one again. Metaverse. Soon.
I would say, soon, but if you look at Unreal Engine, they are probably the biggest player in the market right now. Yes, it's a video game engine, but they're using it for TV and film. There's actually a studio in Tampa called Diamond View. They call it volumetric displays, and they actually partnered up with Unreal Engine, and they're displaying 3D environments that have come from photo scans, really photogrammetry and overall. And those are assets that were purchased to then create those environments. So not really in the survey mapping side for what we do, but it's more like for video games and TV and movies. But I mean, that's one way to go about selling it. I don't know personally how to do it because I haven't done it myself, but I know it's hard. There is a market for it. Yeah.
Yeah, it's not there. It's not quite there yet. That's what I would say. It's definitely there to look cool. But I don't know if there's really necessarily a marketplace for this.
Unless you just want to create your own video game, then go do photogrammetry all day long, and
which I do want to do that. Like I do. That's just a side note. That's a video I've been like trying to work on for a while, but like every time I get like some sort of 2 steps forward, I'm like, it's just a lot of work.
It is.
But yeah, we'll get there. Okay, question. How are you getting a 10th inch accuracy topos within a few? Yeah, he meant 10th foot.
10th of a foot.
10th of a foot.
10th of a foot. We're people.
10th of a foot, guys.
10th of a foot.
Daniel said he had a pilot come in on the job and paid him $10,000. Is 10 to 20% in the ballpark what pilots can negotiate for acquisition? Oh, so how much of the lion's share of the job can the pilot come in there and get? Well, I don't know. Honestly,
it just depends on the job.
Yeah, it depends on what the pilot's doing.
That was a 100-acre job, not a $100,000 job.
100-acre
job. So, but it was probably 35 total. Something honestly, like that. It depends. If you can, it also depends on how much the drone can pull out of it. If you can go fly the drone and get 90% of the data, and all I have to do is go up on the road and capture the pipes or something like that for the Alta. I mean, I got no problem paying it, but usually agree to that price before you start. So it's a little bit kind of hard to say like, I want 50% of every flight, because 50% of some of them are like $2,000. You want a little bit more than that.
I wouldn't do that. No, I definitely, because I've been told before that like we were actually like 80% of the job, like that. It was like the majority was like what we got paid. And
if I was hiring a drone service provider, I would probably there have been a bunch of times whether it was an airplane or a drone, I would just take their price, add 20%, pass it on.
Right.
And the 20% was for me to review it, communicate with the client, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I think, it's just important to like, so that this is the whole 3-card Monty kind of thing. Like you're trying to guess what the price is. And like, this is the whole thing about RFPs or bidding on anything, right? This is the unknown. You don't know what you don't know. And so you're making an educated guess. So sometimes you're too high and you lose it. Sometimes you're too low. I think one good thing to know is like, where is your threshold for too low? And also understanding the industry that you're in. You don't want to leave money on the table either. Like that is the worst feeling when you get a job for like 30,000. They're like, gee whiz, the closest
when they sign the proposal within like 5 minutes, you feel bad. That is how you should feel. You should not be excited. You should feel bad.
Yeah.
If they don't ask you to lower it by 10%.
Yeah, right. Then you did something wrong. Find Daniel on TikTok. It's kind of a big deal. I think definitely the ratio it's kind of an unknown. Like I know what I've been paid sometimes in the past, and so I've heard everything from I was like 80%. I've heard also that I was so cheap that they were like, you're basically free, you don't even count, you're a rounding error on our job. I did a job down in oh wait, I don't think I can talk about this. No, never mind, I can't talk about this. There was a job in another country that I charged way too little for, and they were just the actual sums of money they were talking about was in the hundreds of millions. And I was there. I think I charged under 90 grand for this whole thing I did. And but I actually played a very vital role in that huge project. And they were very happy for that number.
Yeah, I had one last year that they fought me up and down for $1,500 for a photogrammetry mission. Then that helped them get to closing. And when they closed and sold the asset, it sold for $68 million.
Good gravies. Bring that question back up.
Charge more money.
Charge more money, people. Good gosh. How do you deal with a new client that wants LiDAR but knows nothing about it? What questions would you ask them, or what they ask us, I guess? One, we have some great YouTube videos you can send to them, and they'll learn a lot about LiDAR from those videos. I think that's actually been pretty helpful, educating. And then the other is, something that I'm trying to do more, because someone actually brought this up to me. I think, was it you, Dylan? I can't remember. But someone was talking about like make videos that educate the customer, because still someone, I think it was you, Dylan. Was that you? Someone was bringing it up to me that was saying like, as a receiver of quotes from DSPs, like I'm trying to get someone to do work for me. I may get a quote from someone doing traditional survey, or like with a total station, or I'm getting someone using drone LiDAR, or I'm getting and everyone's saying I'm doing the same thing. So this is kind of the question you're talking about. It's like, as that consumer of the data, the payer of money, they're oftentimes also need to be educated. And so I think what Dylan's saying is like, it's kind of everyone that's watching this video's job to go out there and we got to educate the world about this stuff because it's
education comes in different forms too. It's not just, talking about it or sending them a quote, maybe bringing them onto, a one-on-one Zoom call and showcasing some sample data, which obviously there's great sample data on ROCK Robotic or ROCK Cloud, I should say. Or even if you have your own sample data sets, just walk them through, hey, this is what you can expect to receive from us as a deliverable. Plus, we can also do some of these other things too. And if it's your client, it's important that you educate them, right? You can't rely on somebody else to educate them. Otherwise, that's how you lose a client. Right. But yeah, it really boils back down to that education piece. And I think that's 50% of actually getting a client outside of actually doing the work.
Right. Yeah. Right. I totally agree. It's always been, I've done demos for people before. I don't like doing them. Like, I brought people on jobs. I'm talking about if you already have the equipment, then I brought people out to fly with me and show them what it looks like. But I think now we're in such a state that you can, use something like these example data sets in the ROCK Cloud and show the deliverables, show them what it is. And then they can even download those and open up those data sets inside of their CAD software, Trimble Business Center or Civil 3D. So then they can go, oh, I get it. It really isn't that hard for the people that are paying for this type of stuff. They kind of know, as long as, so that's one thing is like the final deliverable data format has to be, openable by them. And that was, again, coming back pre this, software. I would try giving people an LAS file. LAS is the file format for LiDAR data. And they'd be like, cool, thanks, doesn't open. And I'd go, oh, well, let's figure that one out. And then tons of back and forth. So just being able to show them that and have them see those deliverables and actually play with those deliverables, you're speaking the same language then. Any other brain busters? Do you think there is a space for DSP and surveyors to relax language to allow DSP that are not surveyors to use terms like map, survey, etc. for marketing their services? Well,
it's not up to us.
The state you're in. I've definitely received my fair share of complaints. So here's the deal, right? So there is some, I hope if someone's watching this that will comment and yell at me for this. I'm not going to say too much, but some states are more aggressive than other states. And the state I live in, California, technically, if you read the letter of the law, the way it's written, any one that uses geolocation devices to find or locate anything is surveying. So by that logic, Google Maps is surveying. Yeah. Because when I put in navigation and I'm using a GPS to navigate me to a location, hey man, that's surveying. That's illegal. So, guys, I totally agree with this, and I can rant about this. But I think for the most part, usually what you're doing is you're getting the data, your data acquisition, or you have a licensed land surveyor that works with you, or you're working with a company that has that surveyor. Because really, like at the end of the day, like this data, the reason that surveyor comes in is when you're interacting with the law, and so when you're doing a city hall, or you're dealing with the municipality, and you're submitting actual boundaries that's going to go on record, or you're doing plans that need to get through permitting, and so all of this is the thing that. So it's basically the interface of the legal system or the government. And the data is when that surveyor is really coming in. Obviously, you don't have to be a surveyor to take a photo that has a geotag on it. Every phone does this, and they were doing it all day. But, that's a geolocated piece of data. And, I guarantee you everyone has an iPhone isn't a surveyor. So there is a line. I am not going to make a definitive statement of where that line comes and goes. I think
just do your own research. Each state has their own kind of rules, regulations. Everyone's got their playground that they got to play in. So
yep, exactly. Do your own research.
Yeah, definitely do your own research. And one thing on my end, actually, I'm working with engineering firm, and they're looking to use LiDAR to replace surveyors because they only need the relative accuracy on the site. And they are already 100% aware, you know, if they were to use surveyors, yes, they're going to get everything absolute. But for the type of engineering work that they're doing, they just need relative accuracy for the stuff that's relative to the site, not to the state plane that they're in. So that's also another, I guess, another point to add is depending on who your client is and what they're looking for. If they need something survey accurate, then make sure that you're in compliance. If you need to get a surveyor to check off or sign off on your work, then go that route. Otherwise, if they just need something relative or they just need a file output or a deliverable, then, you know, explain it. Hey, I'm giving you this deliverable. I'm not surveyor. So,
yeah.
You know,
and that's like how I was talking about that mapping quality, right? I mean, it's not survey grade. And you can also think about from an engineering perspective, just working on thousands of these projects. A lot of engineers in certain locations, they'll just download publicly available GIS data as their base template. So, I mean, anything that you go make with your drone LiDAR is going to be better than the county GIS Topo from 2010. You know, like there could be an 8-foot bust in the thing. So, you know, you got to compare apples to apples.
But do your research.
Yeah, exactly.
We're not liable for it.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, no, yeah, absolutely.
There's nothing I said. The views and expressions are explicitly my own and do not represent any companies here.
Nope.
And this is not to be taken as gospel.
Nope.
Okay, where can I learn how to manipulate and capture data with LiDAR? Well, we got great videos. Check out the Indiana Drones and Dylan Gorman channel. I think those are both great resources. Also, there's a whole knowledge base on ROCK Robotic. So this is just free information out there. Daniel writes a lot of this content. So there's a whole tons of, you know, free, you know, information you can find over there on that website. And then Dylan is going to be having some courses if you want more structured information. I'll walk you through that. So that's coming out soon. Yeah, I think there's a lot of information. Honestly, there isn't a lot of information. A lot of information on our resources because we've been really working that and pushing that information out there. That's been lacking kind of in the industry in general. So check it out, rockrobotic.com, or the YouTube channels, Dylan Gorman or Indiana Drones. These are great resources.
A little surprise for both of you guys. Next year, I may or may not be hosting just some free LiDAR workshops. Just if anybody wants to come in and hang out, I'm going to be releasing a schedule here soon where I'm doing photogrammetry workshops. But I think in probably some of the major cities throughout the U.S., I'll just do if anybody wants to come hang out, talk LiDAR, see LiDAR, do LiDAR.
I like hanging out.
Sweet.
Yeah. I heard you were doing one in Hawaii for the last 6 weeks.
Oh, yeah. Hawaii, right? We're all going.
You're paying for that one, right?
No.
Oh, no.
My signal. I'm losing you. Wait.
I'm in the tunnel.
Sorry. I think do we have one more question or is that the last one? Oh, we have another question. Will there be a way to replace DJI Terra to create the last file and do it within Rock Cloud itself? Well, maybe not. I'm not, going to tell you yes or no, but at this moment, DJI Terra will still be needed. One of the issues DJI Terra, one of the technical issues is that it has that gimbal on there. And so for us to, anyway, so there's technical things that we have to overcome to make it work well. We do have some ideas, but other than that, outside DJI Terra, you can go straight into, we will have, I don't know, I'm going to say this now so you guys can hear, but we have like the Rock Desktop coming out, like app. And this is like, I know it's actually got a name, and you will be able to go from Terra to that, and that'll like speed your whole workflow up. So I think that's going to be a pretty cool way to go from Terra right to getting deliverables.
Yeah, it's really slick. I like it.
Yeah. And Daniel, you've been using it. Yeah, I haven't. Yeah. I've not been
almost
using
every
it.
day. Yeah.
Yeah, I've not. I need to.
I haven't told anyone about it yet, though. So
I know. I just said it here. I think there's. I'm pretty sure no one will talk about it.
I probably have told somebody about it. I don't think it's a secret.
Yeah. Awesome, guys. Well, hey, that is an hour and 19 minutes and 1 second of live here on the channel that has no name other than the Facebook group itself. We might come up with a name. If you guys have some suggestions what we should call this thing, let us know. We also want to cover more topics in the upcoming videos. I think those topics can be about contracts, more use cases of pricing, getting more guests on that do services that talk about, their exact experience running a business with drones. It's not going to be exclusively LiDAR content. It's also not going to be exclusively branded content. This is meant to be a community for everyone to ask questions, to get real, unbiased, actual information. We want to share, real, truthful results from the equipment that's available to the market. That's kind of been one of the things that, started out the Indiana Drones channel, is comparisons in the LiDAR space. It really wasn't done before. And we want to really lean into that, but we really want your help. And it's not just about us. It's about you and communicating from, one viewer to another viewer, and everyone kind of being on this community to ask questions, get answers. So again, Dylan,
speaking of the community, we'll answer all the rest of the questions on the Facebook.
Yeah.
We'll go through it. Don't you worry.
Daniel will definitely go through it.
Every time I open my phone, that's all I see.
It really is. My phone's blowing up. I love it.
Yeah.
Well, guys, with that being said, Dylan, thank you so much for coming on today.
Thanks for having me here.
Also a moderator onto this Facebook group, so he is more than just a guest. And then Daniel, thank you so much for bringing your expertise today. And with that, bye.
See y'all.